Yankees on the verge of qualifying for the World Series, and all that stands between them is Justin Verlander. Verlander has been sensational since arriving in Houston. He's 8-0 with a 1.39 ERA, and that includes playoff games. Verlander says, quote, "This is why I'm here," unquote. Wilbon, do you expect Justin Verlander to beat the Yankees tonight?
Tone, I don't have expectations, and I know that people are obsessed with our stupid little predictions, and they're obsessed with their own stupid predictions, whether they're social media or in their own personal office pools. I don't care about their predictions. I don't care about your prediction, and I don't have a prediction. I don't expect anything. This is one of those games now. This series has become this because of the way it started. 2 wins for Houston in Houston, 3 wins for the Yankees in New York. I want to just see it. I want to observe it. I want to appreciate Verlander, who I was hoping, as you know, because I told him, had become a Cub and not an Astro during the postseason.
Right.
I love watching this matchup, these two teams. I can't wait to see it. I don't have any expectations.
Yeah, I think Verlander's the best. I put Verlander in my personal pantheon with Max Scherzer and Madison Bumgarner, guys who you say they're total bulldogs. I do expect him to win. I mean, I think he's that good. I don't know how they're going to win Game 7 because I don't think he can win Game 6 and Game 7. But I do expect him to win. And what is curious to me is during that trade deadline ballet that went on that we talked about a lot, that the 3 most coveted guys, Verlander, Darvish, and Sonny Gray, their teams are still in it.
Yeah.
All of them actually are as important as we thought they would be. I don't know about a Game 7, but I do know this, Mike. Well, at least I think this, that if Game 6 had been yesterday in Yankee Stadium, the Yankees would have won it. And the change of scenery and the day off, I think, is important. I think this is a big referendum on how good Houston is.
Well, you're saying if Game 6 had been there in the old format or the different format of 2-2-1-1-1, but if it had been that, Houston might have gotten Game 5 down in Houston, and so we wouldn't be at the same place. I mean, 2-3-2 does that. That's why the NBA did away with it. They think it's too unfair. But, Tony, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that series, people predicted it's going to go down that way? No, they didn't. So let's watch. After Clayton Kershaw and Kiki Hernandez finished off the Cubs last night in humiliating fashion in Wrigley, the Dodgers returned west today to prepare for the Yankees and/or Astros in the World Series. By now, having won 7 of 8 in the postseason, the Dodgers should have convinced everybody they're back to their midsummer dominance. Tone, is there any doubt, no matter who wins the ALCS, that the Dodgers, though it doesn't really matter a lick, will be the favorite?
No, I mean, not to me, no. I agree with you. I think there's no doubt.
Oh, okay, no doubt.
I agree with you that I think they're back to the form that they showed before they began that very, very odd anomaly of a swoon in August and September where, if I have this right,
they 16 of 17.
Yes, 16 of 17. Now, you look at that line. Here's a couple of things that we know to be true. They've got a great bullpen. They've got a great bench. I mean, they only have really 3 or 4 everyday starters who are everyday starters. They bring people in all the time.
It's an old-fashioned platoon lineup like Earl Weaver would have used with the Orioles in the 70s and the 80s.
They're really, really great. I think they're a great team. And I know you're going to say, well, that's why we want to watch and don't make predictions. But, yes, I would make them the favorite, and so would you. Yes, I would.
I'd make them a favorite. But you know what, Tony? If the Yankees somehow finish this off by winning 4 straight after losing the first 2 in Houston, and they just finish it off with 4 straight, they go in, and I know we covered enough baseball to not make a big deal of momentum, especially when you start another series in another place against a different team and different starting pitching. So I don't want to use the word momentum.
Right.
But you talk about feel good.
Right.
If the Yankees do this. And look, the Dodgers last night, to sit there and watch them, Kiki Hernandez. I mean, seriously, he's like a 216 hitter. I'm looking up there, I'm like, you let Kiki Hernandez hit 3 home runs? I was angry last night, but the Dodgers, they're back to being great.
He's a perfect example. Nobody knows who he is. He hits 3 homers. You know how many games he started this year? He started 71. Chris Taylor, the leadoff guy who'll take like 10 pitches in an at-bat. He only started 125 games. They've got bodies.
Tony,
they're used correctly.
They all feel it. And that's what teams, when the team is great, like Kansas City a few years ago, and you can find this every couple of years. Everybody feels infused.
This is true. Kershaw went 6, only allowed 3 hits and 1 run. He only has to go 6. That's how good their bullpen is. The Oakland Raiders beat the Kansas City Chiefs last night, courtesy of defensive fouls and untimed downs. The game ended on Derek Carr's touchdown pass to Michael Crabtree. But earlier in the game, Marshawn Lynch got tossed for putting his hands on a ref on the way to rescue his close friend, a chief, from a skirmish with Lynch's teammates, the Raiders. Wilbon, which is the bigger deal to you, the game or the bizarre Marshawn Lynch ejection?
Now, you know this about me for a long time with Marshawn Lynch, even in his last year on Seattle. He's a crazy dude.
Yeah.
I don't care about him. He's irrelevant. He can't really play anymore. Not at the level that he could once play. I don't care about Marshawn Lynch. He's going to color outside the lines. He's going to do things to call attention to himself. And people will stand up and say, he's authentic, he's this, he's that. Get him out of here. That is one of the thrilling endings of a football game I have ever seen at any level. There's the Stanford band, or was it the Cal band? I don't remember whose band it was, in the Cal-Stanford game. And there's this. This is unbelievable, Tony. I know you weren't up late enough to watch it. It's one play after another, one flag after another.
Right.
I am screaming at an 80-inch TV screen in a restaurant in Chicago because I had left the Cubs, God knows. This is the greatest ending ever. Don't tell me Marshawn Lynch because you didn't watch the game. The game was fabulous.
Right. Marshawn Lynch, the only thing I would say about him is that he does not pay attention to the rules. And he doesn't care. By the way, he doesn't care.
Right.
If he gets suspended, if he doesn't play for a year.
So get him out.
He doesn't care. It's very interesting that you would eat at a restaurant in Chicago and not name it, which means you probably had to pay, which is
Bellwether.
unlikely.
I did have to pay, though. That was disappointing.
This is the reason I like the Raiders so much at the beginning of the year, because of Crabtree and Amari Cooper. And Derek Carr, who gained 417 yards through the air without any interceptions. But I know that Kansas City's inevitability is gone. I understand that. They've lost twice in 5 games. 5 days. He had 3. He's 15 touchdowns, no picks.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get 30 points in the NFL, you have to win. You have to win.
I don't know, Tony, anymore on the road. I mean,
30,
these games.
That's
I mean,
4+ scores.
They should have won that game.
Yeah.
But, Tony, you can't. Look, I love the use of replay, and I know you have to use it if a guy's foot is 6 inches off the base. Thank you for the Cubs. But also, that a guy's fanny touches the ball at the 1 and he rolls in, and that's no longer a touchdown. I mean, we're in a tough place with this, but the ending of that game, Marshawn Lynch is irrelevant to football. He's a character. He's a personality. Put him on TMZ. He's irrelevant to football. Lonzo Ball is all of 1 game into his career, and already his daddy is making a nuisance of himself. After veteran defensive ace Patrick Beverley held Ball to 3 points and 4 assists in his NBA debut, he said of the Laker rook, quote, I told him after the game that due to all the riffraff that his dad brings, that he's going to get a lot of people coming at him. What a better way to start than 94 feet guarding him, close quote. Daddy Ball shot back, who is Patrick Beverley, and uttered a bunch of the usual LeVar Ball nonsense. Tony, please tell me once again you're going to put more stock in Beverley's postgame analysis than LeVar's.
I'm going to put a little bit of stock in LeVar's in this sense, and not about Beverley, Patrick Beverley. I don't know why I always call him Randy Beverley. But it is 1 game. So you're not going to make any judgments on 1 game. But what happened here is that Beverley is speaking for the rank and file in the NBA.
Yes.
When he uses the word the riffraff, I want to get this right, the riffraff that LeVar Ball brings, this puts a target on Lonzo Ball's chest, not of his own making. His father created this, and he got knocked down. He is going to get pushed around. This reminds me of when Bryce Harper has his first at bat as a rookie against Cole Hamels, and Cole Hamels hits him, and as if to say, you're a punk. Welcome to the league. And this is going to happen to Lonzo Ball, and that is not fair. It's not fair.
Luckily for Lonzo Ball, there's only about 4 or 5 guys in the league who care to devote themselves to locking you up for 94 feet for the entire game like Mr. Beverley. He don't have that many of those guys. Only 4 or 5 of those guys in the league can do that. But let me just go off on a second on LeVar Ball. And all the networks, including this one, who put a microphone in front of him for minutes at a time. That's editorial malpractice. That shouldn't happen, okay? Because we don't need to know what LeVar Ball says anymore. And what he's doing, Tony, his behavior, what responsible father puts a target on his child? I find what LeVar Ball does now loathsome at times. He's not the only father who's raised good kids or talented kids. And to see this, and particularly for me, a father, for a black father to do this, to put his child in professional harm's way, this incredible target that now people in the league hate your kid because you behave like a self-absorbed jerk. And networks like ours help him. I find it all loathsome. It's worse than reality TV.
The new-look, star-laden Oklahoma City Thunder opened their season last night thumping the Knicks. Russell Westbrook had his customary triple-double, but he got his 21 points on only 12 shots, and he had 16 assists, many to Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, who each took at least 20 shots. Wilbur, does Westbrook's success last night as a facilitator indicate to you he will change his game?
Not yet. We know he can. Look, Russell Westbrook can be anything he wants to be. He is a superior scorer. He is a fine passer. He is a ferocious rebounder at his size. He is fearless. All those attributes you want. But you're not going to ask me after one game to make a commitment to whether he's willing. Capable? Absolutely, Tony. But I got to see not just 8 or 10 games of this. I got to see more than 20. Is he going to play like this consistently? Because if he does, they are a threat to beat anybody.
Here's what I want to say about this with Russell Westbrook. I believe, and I'm including Kyrie Irving in this sentence, I believe there's more pressure on Russell Westbrook than on anybody in the NBA this year because he's got real talent around him. He had no talent around him last year, and so anything he did on the court was fine. And he proved what a great player he was, but he did not win. He has the capability of winning this year because he has Carmelo Anthony and Paul George. I believe he will become more like James Harden, somebody who distributes the ball and scores when he wants to score, but won't have to score all the time. I believe this is the first of many, many, many games like this because I think that Westbrook has to prove I can win, not I can be great, but I can win.
He's been in the finals, Tony. He's been in, I mean, he's not like...
That was with Durant. That was with Durant.
Okay, but I mean, listen, I think a little bit, I agree with everything you just said.
Thank you.
In terms of what he can do and how he's needed to play. But you're underestimating, Tony, when guys in the league, in that league, have played close to double-digit years and had a certain level of success, there's oh, yeah, I want to win, but they usually want to win their way.
Well,
the onus is on Russell Westbrook to prove he can do this every night. Not every night, but enough nights for that team to win 60 games
he's
and
in
go
the
into the playoffs like this?
same spot as Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. And if they are willing to be coached to win...
It'd be a force.
Yes, let's take a break. Coming up, could Michigan's fan base turn on Jim Harbaugh if the Wolverines lose to Penn State?
And is there anyone out there who can really and truly challenge Alabama?
I don't think so. Do you think so?
Yeah, I do actually.
Yeah.
We've got a couple teams. Not many, Tone. It's a short list.
We've got a couple of intriguing matchups in college football this weekend, which makes it a great time to bring in ESPN college football analyst Desmond Howard. Des, let's start with this. You're at Penn State, where number 19 Michigan plays at number 2 Penn State tomorrow night. You're a Michigan man. We know that. If Jim Harbaugh loses this game, do people in Ann Arbor start looking at him differently?
Well, I think it depends on the way they lose, if they lose this game. If it's a very competitive game and it comes down to like the final play and, it's less than 3 points, then I don't really think they look at him differently. And then don't forget, he still has the big game at the end of the year with the Buckeyes coming to Ann Arbor. So even if he doesn't win this game tomorrow night, a win against the Buckeyes in Ann Arbor, end of November, will go a long way of healing a lot of the wounds that they've suffered this season, losing to Michigan State, obviously, and if they lose to Penn State. So I think that kind of changes the narrative. So it's not just about win or loss, win or lose tomorrow night against Penn State. It's the way the game goes and then what happens from there, especially against Ohio State at the end of the season.
Wilbon, look at the shot behind Desmond. That's Penn State late October. People wearing shorts. What happened to the weather in America?
Big Ten guys like Desmond and I, we don't like this. We're not happy with this.
All right, Syracuse plays indoors.
Not at all.
Syracuse beat Clemson. That's got to be the most stunning game of the year so far. Now they go at Miami, number 8 team in the country. Is there something that the Orange did last week that makes you think, Desmond, they could win again this week?
I tell you what, Mike, I mean, Tony, I was looking at that game, and, they came out on fire. But you expected that. They were at home. They had, number 2 team in the nation in their backyard. So you expected them to come out with their hair on fire. And they went back and forth for a while. I was wondering if Syracuse could really withstand that high level of play for 4 quarters. And I was surprised that they did. So now you have Dino Babers, his coaching staff, got his team with a lot of confidence. They're going to come out there and run 80 to 90 plays against this Miami defense. And we just saw Miami win 2 close games, pulling out the games late, final plays in the 4th quarter to get by a Florida State team and then a Georgia Tech team. So now we're still trying to figure out how good are the Hurricanes. I think Dino Babers, those guys have a lot of confidence. They trust in the system. They believe in what they're doing. And, man, they're going to try to wear out that defense with 80 and 90 plays on offense. So I don't think what happened a week ago was a fluke by any stretch of the imagination. I think right now the Syracuse Orangemen, they have an identity, and they're going to go out there and play a tough game against Miami. Actually, I just put Miami on upset alert.
Upset alert indeed. Desmond, there are 8 undefeateds left in the top 25. Let's rule Alabama out of this discussion for just a moment. Of those other undefeated teams, is there anybody you're in love with?
Mike, I really, really like the Georgia Bulldogs. And I'm not like a guy jumping on the bandwagon. I'm not a Johnny-come-lately. In our preview show, I picked the Georgia Bulldogs to win the SEC championship. But let me tell you why. I knew they had a lot of their defense coming back. And Kirby Smart, obviously, he's a disciple from Nick Saban. So, he has a great defensive mind. But then they had the running backs coming back. Sonny Michel, Nick Chubb. And who knew that this quarterback, Fromm, who came in for Eason, would play not at a particularly high level, but just play well enough that they can win games. He's not playing outside of himself. And so I knew that they would have a great chance of running the table and then getting to the SEC championship game and then, going head-to-head with Alabama. So at this point, I'm so impressed with the Georgia Bulldogs, the way they went up to South Bend. And man, they contained the Fighting Irish running game. We're talking about Notre Dame rush for 308 yards a game. They got like less than, I think, 60 yards against the Georgia Bulldogs defense. So I like Georgia a lot.
Thank you so much, Desmond.
Right, appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's great, Wilbon, is he didn't pick a Big Ten team. College Game Day hits the air tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Let's take one last break. Still to come, did the Nats, my Nats, make the right move by replacing Dusty Baker?
And is it okay for Cam Newton to skip sessions with the media? I'm trying to take Desmond's coach away. Not for my alma mater.
No, for the Bears.
But for my pro team.
Yeah. Happy time, people. Happy 64th birthday, Keith Hernandez. Millennials don't know what a good hitter the 5-time All-Star Hernandez was. In his 17-year career, mostly with the Cardinals and Mets, Hernandez batted .296 lifetime, and that is good. He's now on the Fox Baseball Show with Frank Thomas, Big Papi, and Alex Rodriguez, who idolized Hernandez as a child. And, Mike, that show is very good.
Tony, yes. It was very good last year, too, with Pete Rose. I thought I would miss Rose more. I miss him a little bit, but these guys are great to watch. It's fun watch.
Happy anniversary, Paul Hornung. On this day 11 years ago, your pants fell down while you were at the podium speaking at a Notre Dame pep rally. Now, this is not why they called Hornung the Golden Boy.
Maybe.
But Hornung has lived his
is.
whole life as if on scholarship. A Heisman Trophy winner at Notre Dame, Hall of Famer with the Packers. Paul Hornung probably hasn't paid for a meal in his whole life because others are happy to.
Tony, we got to know Paul Hornung and Jim Brown, which is a pretty cool thing. Can you believe they're 81, 82 years old now?
All-time greats. Happy trails, Dusty Baker. The Nats fired their manager and his entire coaching staff today after a 97-win season in which Bryce Harper missed 51 games and Trey Turner missed 64. This is a tough call. Dusty won the division in both of his years as manager for the Nats, but they were a playoff team that did not win a playoff series. He was popular with fans and players. Wilbon, you watched Dusty manage in Chicago.
Yeah,
what would you have done?
Tony, I don't want to go too Bruce Arena on this, but maybe nothing. Maybe sometimes instead of overreacting, you let them try again. That's a really good team.
It is.
And there's some other really good teams that they didn't beat out, like the Dodgers and Cubs. It's not a crime. It isn't.
Errors and omissions. Wilbon, you wondered which band was on the field at the end of the Stanford Cal game. It was, of course, The Stanford band let us go to the big finish.
Millennials don't know
The
that.
Tigers hired Ron Gardenhire to be their manager. Is that a good choice?
13 seasons with the Twins in the same division. Maybe. I hope it is. Draymond Green will play tonight against New Orleans. Is that a big deal?
That's only the second game of the season, so probably not, but he makes them better all the time. He's very important.
Yeah.
Cam Newton did not talk to the media on Wednesday and Thursday. Okay by you?
I know you're going to say this is bad access journalist. I don't need to hear Cam Newton's words or voice every day. I don't, as a consumer of this stuff. Jameis Winston will start for the Buccaneers against the Bills despite that shoulder injury. Make sense?
No, not if it's a bad shoulder injury. Hello, Andrew Luck. What? No,
Yeah.
not necessarily no. Last one, Falcons and Patriots on Sunday night. Who do you like?
I like Matty Ice to go for about 410 yards passing. And as always, Tony, I like the New England Patriots to win the game.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Have a great weekend, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app.